So what I want to talk about today is, and again, for those who've stuck around for a couple of years, or if you're new, um, there's a consistency in the themes that we talk about because it's all around mindset. And the idea is that our mindset shapes our actions shape our reality. Right? Our actions shape our outcomes, our actions shape our circumstances. And so if we want better situations, we got to have better actions. We want better actions, got to have better thoughts, better mindset, better belief system. So that's what we're trying to do. And that means we face a lot of the same issues. And so trying to always be aware of the issues that I face when it comes to mindset, that people I'm working with are facing, my family, my friends, clients, leaders, and always look for stories to help us kind of reframe what we are going through. So I want to talk a little bit about resilience and perspective, right? Because a resilient mindset is a healthy mindset. So, and a lot of the stories come from my kids. And so it's basketball season. I think the last story we told actually came from my middle son's basketball game. Incredible story that came out of one of their recent games. But this weekend, this story is about my oldest son. So Saturday was his birthday, turning 13. He had a game on Saturday evening. And my oldest son, like they're pretty average height kids. Like he seems tall for his age at his school. His teammates seem fairly average. But every team we're playing, they're in that 13, 14-year-old range. So everyone else appears to have already hit that 13 to 14-year-old growth spurt. So they are the smallest team every week. And it's not close. I mean, they're playing against giants. And it's good learning lessons, right? In some of these games. Well, this weekend, they're playing against a team that had several kids who are much bigger. Well, he gets the ball, gets a pass in the paint, and he goes up for a shot and just gets clobbered. I mean, like the kid hit him. Wasn't a dirty play. It wasn't trying to hurt him. Just a hard basketball play. Just make an effort. And so he hit Gabe, and Gabe just goes. He's like built like me, right? About average height and skinny. So he takes the contact, takes the hit, and just goes sprawling out on the floor and just lays there for a couple seconds. And he had an option at that point. Now, the option, I guess he really couldn't quit. I mean, he wasn't that injured, wasn't really hurt, but he's laying on the ground in that moment. He's like, man, that's not fun. I just got rocked. I mean, that's embarrassing. Like, my family's here. Everyone saw him block my shot, hit me, and saw me go. They all see me on the ground. It's kind of embarrassing. I'm ashamed that happened. I'm maybe a little bit hurt, right? It's like, even though the kid wasn't trying to hurt him, you take a hit that hard and fall to the ground that hard, like you're in a little bit of pain. It's kind of a shock to the system. But what he did was he got back up and got in the game. He went and shot his free throws and kept competing the rest of the game. So after the game, I said, "Are you going to feel that one tomorrow?" He said, "Yeah, that one hurt a little bit." I said, "That's all right. Right? You'll get hurt. That means you're in the game. It means you're going for it. Right? You're not just a spectator. You're actually in the game." We talk about that with our boys all the time. Like, if you're playing in a game, don't stand away from the action, just kind of watching, hoping to maybe get the ball, hoping that somebody else does something. It's like, get in the game, be a participant, not a spectator. So if you get hurt, you get knocked to the ground, that means you're a participant. That means you are in the game, you're fighting, you're playing hard, you're going for it. And you're going to get knocked down every now and then. I said, what matters though is that you got back up. It doesn't matter that you got knocked down. That's life. What matters is that you got back up and you kept going. You didn't let that deter you from continuing to give your best the rest of the game, from continuing to play hard. And I think a lot of us do that, right? You're going to face adversities. You're going to get knocked down. You're going to fail. You're going to fall, right? Things aren't going to go your way. Adversity will hit. Obstacles will show up. And too many of us, when we don't have the right mindset, that resilient mindset, we get knocked down and we think, man, this is it. I knew I was on the wrong path. I knew I wasn't good enough. I knew this was never going to work. I'm embarrassed. I'm hurt. I'm ashamed. This isn't fun. And so we quit. We take ourselves out of the game and we go back to settling for a life of average. We convince ourselves or listen to the lies in our head that's trying to convince us that this adversity means we're going the wrong way, that we're doing the wrong thing, and that it's better off if we just quit. And what I think the issue is that in that moment, that feels like everything, right? And you may be in the season right now. You may be in a season right now of struggle, of frustration, of adversity, of obstacles. Maybe you've been knocked down. Maybe you're on the ground right now, right? You're in that season where you've been knocked down. And it feels like the circumstances can feel overwhelming. The only thing you can see is your circumstances, your adversity, the obstacle in front of you, and it feels overwhelming. Well, the problem isn't the picture, right? It's like you put a picture frame around that, and like you're looking at this is the issue. The issue isn't the picture that you're looking at. The issue is your picture frame, right? Your frame is just a moment, capturing a moment in time. You getting knocked down is just part of the path of progress. It's part of the path of pursuing your best, of running after your potential. We've seen chart after chart, graph after graph, visual after visual of like success as you're going up this direction and then you go back down. Then you go up this direction and you get knocked back down. Well, if you put a picture frame around one of those down seasons, it can feel like, oh, we've lost. This is failure. This is the end. But you take off that picture frame and you zoom out. And it's like, oh no, this actually ends well. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. I'm still going up. I'm still trending in the right direction. But it takes resilience in that moment and perspective in that moment to say, I'm going to get back up and get back in the game. I'm going to get back up and I'm going to keep fighting. I'm going to keep running. I'm going to keep going for it because that's who you were created to be, right? You weren't created to live an average life. And that doesn't mean you were created to have excess wealth and 10 homes and 3 cars. And it's like, no, but you were created to have a life of significance. And when you hit that adversity, when you hit that obstacle, when you get knocked down, you always have a choice. But when you have a resilient mindset, when you have the right perspective, the choice is obvious. The choice is easy. That's all right. I got knocked down. I'm going to get back up. And I know I'm going to get knocked down again. That's just part of the path, right? We aren't guaranteed a life that is free from adversity. We've talked all the time about this idea of rejecting comfort because pursuing comfort never leads to good things. In fact, we were promised a life, a path of adversity, of difficulty. That doesn't mean bad. It just means things are hard, right? Living a life on purpose is a difficult thing to do. It's not easy. If it were easy, everyone would be living their best life. But very few people are because it's difficult and because they don't have a resilient mindset, because they don't have the right perspective. And whenever they get knocked down, they stay down. But we always have the option, the choice of getting back up and getting back in the game and continuing to give our best. And so maybe you're in a peak season right now, a mountaintop season right now, right? Be grateful for that because it's just a moment as well, right? It's not the whole picture. It's part of the picture. There's going to be a down season that comes, and that's okay. That's not to be pessimistic. That's just knowing, hey, difficult things are going to show up my path, but I'm going to be ready and I'm going to be resilient. Maybe you've been knocked down. Maybe you're in that valley right now. That's okay too, right? You have the option to get back up and get back in the game, knowing that this moment is just a moment. This season is just a season, and that better days are ahead if you get up. If you get up. And so resilience and perspective, 2 things that we have to have if we want to live a better life, if we want to be better leaders, if we want to be better teammates, if we want to be better spouses and partners and parents and friends, we have to be resilient and have the proper perspective to know when we get knocked down, we have the chance and the opportunity and the choice to still get back up. Tracy, any thoughts?
Mm-hmm. That's the key word, I think, choice. It's just choice. It's our choice. Love that.
Yeah.
Great word.
Yeah.
I can't wait. I mean, I already love to hear about your boys, and they're already great guys, right? But I can't wait to see what they become as adults with parents who do all of the investing as you and your wife do. So
if it doesn't pay off, we're going to have some real conversations. No.
Well, there is no guarantee, Kevin, but you're definitely doing your part. So.
And we try, we talk a lot about this stuff with parenting, with teams, with life. Mm-hmm. We try not to put unhealthy expectations on them. Our expectations are how they respond in certain situations, not what they, we don't expect that our kids become doctors or CEOs. It's like, whatever you're passionate about, go do it and be the best you can possibly be at it. Whatever that looks like. But for us, it's how they show up in every setting.
Yeah.
Their character, all these types of things.
That's true. We have a comment or question coming in. Anthony says, we know that resiliency requires a willingness to fail. Do you think people who struggle with resilience may create more anxiety in their life?
1,000%. It's a really, really good question, right? Because we have a society, and I know I'm generalizing, but a society that we've labeled failure as final. We've labeled failure as fatal. And so we have a generation of people who are terrified of failing. And I think the internet makes this worse. I think a lot of good things come from the internet. But used to, you could fail in private.
Mm-hmm.
The only people who would know is like your family, maybe your close friends, maybe some people in the community. But it's like you could get fired, or you could make a mistake and you'd go on with your life. Today, when you fail, like it's a communal, it's a public failure. No matter what your job is, there's a public aspect to it. And so it feels scarier, it feels more shameful. But it's like failure it's part of the process. I mean, you hear all the time, like Michael Jordan, he missed far more game-winning shots than he made. I don't know what the number is, but like an insane number of game-winning shots he missed. We just remember the makes. And so it's failure, this part of this process, and we have to be comfortable failing. But if you're afraid of failure, that limits your ability to be resilient, right? Because you're trying to overprotect, you're trying to make sure that you don't screw up, and which just limits your impact, limits your life, limits your significance, because you're putting a wall around yourself to protect yourself from failure. You're really protecting yourself from growth. One of my favorite stories, Sarah Blakely, she's the CEO of Spanx. I may have told this story on here before, but she tells a story where her dad, when he would pick her up from school, say, "Hey, what'd you fail at today?" And the point was like to get it into her mind, like, hey, failure isn't bad. Failure is just a chance to grow and to learn and to get better the next time. And so when she started her company, she was like, I wasn't afraid of failure. She goes, I've failed thousands of times. It's like, I'm still here. And that's the thing I think we have to realize, is that we've all failed hundreds, thousands, millions of times. I mean, I fail every day. The scale of those failures is always a little bit different, but we fail all the time. But you've also overcome every failure that you've ever experienced in your life. It may not have looked how you wanted it to or how you thought it would, but you're here today. You're still here, alive and breathing. You've overcome whatever failures that you've experienced. And so we've got to take this, and that's one thing we try to help our kids understand. Like if when they miss a shot in basketball, or they strike out, or they get a bad grade on a test, like, great. Let's talk about what went wrong. Let's talk about how, like, what were you thinking that moment? How did you execute? Okay, now what are you going to do the next time? But if they miss a shot, it's like, great. You can't make a shot if you don't take a shot. So it's like, to be willing to get into the game and take that risk, I think, is part of a resilient mindset. Great question.
Yeah, really. Well, I think I mentioned this maybe last time, but Larry brought up a good point. He said, I did get and read Kevin's Keep Chopping Wood book. It's really good. Well done, Kevin. So there it is, that little cool book. Show them how thin it is. I always want to point out how thin it is, because I actually really like this. I feel like books are a bit too long.
I'm not a great reader.
Yeah,
so I'm sure I
let's
can
hear
read
a
just
little
fine.
excerpt.
Everyone I can read just. I'm certainly not going to read to you. It is 54 pages.
54. That's perfect.
54. I mean,
Yeah,
you could read it with your morning coffee.
that's right. And it is worth it. It's worth a read, for anyone, but especially if you have children, read it to them. It's a really good story.
Yeah, kids do. That's what's been fun. I know I've said this before as we talked about it. Like, last week I got to give, when my voice was kind of there, I got to give a virtual keynote to a global organization, 10,000 employees, $3.5 billion in revenue. And it was around this book. But then I'll get messages from people like, hey, my 8-year-old loves this concept, or my 12-year-old thinks this is my 17. And so, like, it's for everyone. And especially right now, it's February 7th. Maybe you've struggled to keep with your January 1st goals. Maybe you've fallen off that wagon a little bit. It's a great book to help you reset and establish the right habits for the rest of the year.
For sure. Well, thank you, Kevin. Great word on resilience and perspective. We appreciate it. And we'll see all of you next Monday, same time.